Oh, wow. In Chicago, the criminals come to the police. How convenient. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski here of WeAreChange.org. A lot of absolutely crazy news to get into today, as there is some wild video footage coming from all over the world, not just Chicago. A major farmers' revolt in the Netherlands against the Great Reset. What's happening there, we're going to explain in this video. Ilhan Omar booed by her own Somalis. Top Gun wreaking havoc at the box office. A woke backlash as the economy is absolutely hitting the ish. Lots to get into today. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all on this independent media organization. But before we do, the clip that we played in the beginning of this broadcast was provided by Town Hall Media. If they have a YouTube channel, we will be linking it down in the description below so you could watch more of their content. I saw this on Facebook and thought to myself immediately, don't they have laws against this in Chicago? Oh, wait, yeah. Also, today is July 4th, and I hope you guys are celebrating the larger ideas of personal liberty, freedom, and independence from a big, Becky, bureaucratic British government that, of course, wanted to centralize everything in your existence until a bunch of Yanks got together and said, nope, on today, on July 4th, and created a system that eventually turned into another bureaucratic Becky state that likes to centralize everything. But let's not get into the nitty-gritty. It's still important to push and represent these larger ideas of freedom, of liberty, personal responsibility, since of course ideas are bulletproof and just a trajectory of where I think we should be focusing on and trying to strive to achieve. And as today we celebrate the basic ideas of independence, liberty, and freedom, it's important to remind you that individuals like Julian Assange of WikiLeaks, that is now being extradited to the United States, even though he's not an American citizen, represent those larger ideas, especially when it comes to the ideas of free speech, the freedom of the press, which he exemplified to the point where the state is putting down the hammer on him. Yesterday was, by the way, his 51st birthday, his 4th birthday, which he spent inside of a UK jail, mainly in isolation, mainly under psychological torture, away from his wife, away from his children, because he dared to express these larger ideas in his own way. By the way, on his birthday, it was also announced that a Spanish court summoned the former U.S. Secretary of State and former U.S. CIA Director Mike Pompeo to explain the CIA's plot to assassinate Julian Assange, which of course admittedly we know was officially discussed. In related tyranny news that stands in the way of freedom, we have New York also announcing that it will demand the social media history from an individual from within the last 3 years if they dare to apply for a concealed carry permit. This is essentially, again, just skirting the issues, especially after a recent Supreme Court ruling which directly countered New York's draconian measures against personal self-defense, as now the government is implementing a Chinese-style social credit score, passing more unconstitutional laws after the Supreme Court just ruled that their previous laws were unconstitutional. What a surprise there. And yeah, I bet if you criticize the governor or the government of New York, you probably won't meet the criteria of a character and conduct that they find provable for personal defense, as the government is most likely going to be, of course, abusing this power that they have granted themselves. And very interestingly, the more laws that they pass against violence, the more violence that they usually have, which is perfectly represented by the current situation unfolding in Chicago, as of course, these instances of criminal gangs literally going after police cars is not a rare occurrence. And as you can see from this video, there was another incident where, of course, this happened. Total lawlessness in a land filled with a lot of laws that prevent innocent civilians from being able to defend themselves against the criminals that are running free all over the city. In related governments have gone to crazy news, we have the latest massive protests right now unfolding in the Netherlands, where we are having farmers rise up together against the state there that has limited their ability to, of course, farm. You might be asking yourself, why during these very difficult times of supply shortages, of expected food shortages, of massive supply chain disruptions, of massive wars that are absolutely eviscerating the global food supply chain, why in the world is the Dutch government at this time limiting farmers' ability to farm? Well, because of some climate change regulation that they passed to limit nitrogen. And because they're limiting nitrogen, they're limiting the ability of the farmers to be able to farm, and this is allegedly good for the environment, even though this is going to lead to massive human suffering on scales that we have not seen before. And this is why there are many huge acts of civil disobedience, mass gatherings happening right now as we're talking inside of the Netherlands, which have been unfolding within the last few years. There you see people also kick squad cars, but for a different reason. These protests have been carrying on for a very long time. They are continuing today, specifically on July 4th, 2022, as these massive government interventions and destruction of everyday lives by the Dutch government will, of course, impede the Netherlands, as that country is already one of the largest exporters of meat, chickens, cattle, pigs. These new limits on farming in the Netherlands will, of course, disrupt that massively, deliberately disrupting the global food supply chain, which some have speculated is all a part of the Great Reset Build Back Better plan that has been prophesied by so many politicians that they admittedly are implementing in order to, quote, help. Yeah, and again, it's important to note that these protests are massive. They're not garnering a lot of domestic Western media attention, but I think it's worthwhile to talk about this specific issue, especially with the major projections of some very serious problems happening with our food supply chain in the next few coming weeks and months. As of course, there also is a deliberate energy shortage that is being orchestrated by many central planners, usually a lot of the same individuals on a client list that the government is keeping secret away from everyone else. Usually. Not always, but usually. All of this as there are some protests building up in Ohio. What's going on there? What else is happening with our food supply chain? What else is happening with our current reality? Well, we're going to be discussing that all later on today on LukeUncensored.com, our own website, where of course we have our own platform where we get to say and do whatever we want. They're exclusive merchandise available only for members. We just added a new shirt that's going to be available at cost for you. You of course get a better deal on it than you would on thebestpoliticalshirts.com, where you could buy amazing shirts like the one that I'm wearing right now, which are very appropriate for today. Some have criticized it within the last 2.5 years, but many have found out that it has been right on the money, as of course many of our predictions have, as well, as we strive to provide you the best content, the best information to help you along this crazy transition that the world is being brought into by a lot of very bad people. How do you survive? How do you thrive during these very difficult times? Well, we focus on that very specific issue with a lot of talk about health, wealth, personal development. We have a forum and specific data sets centered towards helping you specifically on LukeUncensored.com. If you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for? This is our own members area where we strive to provide you the most amount of value, and I am proud to say I put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this platform. I've been working extremely hard to make this happen, and I'm very proud at what I'm able to provide the average Joe out there, all exclusively on LukeUncensored.com. Now, as we're speaking, there's a new viral clip going around the internet from, of course, Fox 13 in Tampa, Florida, specifically showing a World War II veteran celebrating his 100th birthday, speaking to the country and describing how the United States is, quote, going to hell in a handbasket, of course, describing the sacrifice that he, his friends, have paid a big price for no longer exists, saying, quote, it's all down the drain. And I think this man definitely makes some solid points that a lot of people are listening to, and this is why this video clip is going around and being shared as often as it is. As of course his sentiment is being felt by a lot of different Americans. This, as the current president of the United States, approval numbers have hit a new all-time low, sinking to negative 27%, according to some polls, sinking to the lowest level ever. And what did you think was going to happen? As of course the old man is being used as a distraction to usher in the Great Reset, Build Back Better UN 2030 agenda that has been ever so strived for by some very powerful individuals in our society. This administration has been deliberately shooting the U.S. economy in its own foot. Biden has been trying to blame the previous president, the president of Russia, now going as far as to even try to blame gas station owners for the rise of gas prices in the United States, when of course deliberately his policies, or the policies of the people behind him, the shadowy elites that truly do call the shots and are actually competent and don't need to nap every hour, have implemented policies that have directly resulted in the price of energy going up dramatically. They are doubling down on those policies. They have just stopped oil exploration and discovery in Alaska, in the Gulf of Mexico. And we have to understand here, what's happening here is a deliberate destruction of our current system by some very dark, sinister forces that are trying to create some order out of the chaos that they are fomenting in this country. A lot of this has been fomented through the ideas of woke ideology, which specifically culturally there has been a major pushback against. One major indicator of this is how culturally things have shifted, but one small indicator of this is the response that woke Ilhan Omar, congresswoman from Minnesota, as she attended a 10,000 strong Somali music festival, and her own people from her own country in her own district absolutely booed her from all the videos that have been coming out. And as reported by the New York Post, the Daily Mail, this, as many of the people there told her to get the bleep out of there. And this rebuke of a woke representative is also being felt in Hollywood, where Netflix has announced that it is firing woke employees, where content that is being made all in this larger ideology of cultural perversion is also being pushed back against, criticized, and receiving record low viewership because people don't want to be lectured politically and propagandized and beat over the head by degenerates, especially when it comes to their ability when they're trying to get away from all the madness being created by those same forces in our society. And I think this is also represented by what's been happening at the box office recently, where movies like Top Gun Maverick have been doing absolutely incredibly well compared to woke stories like, of course, the new Buzz Lightyear movie, which of course pushes down a political agenda down your throat. Top Gun, instead of focusing on a woke message, focuses on a message of trying to provide actually a good script, a good story, which has been refreshing to a lot of people that have absolutely raved about this movie. I saw it, I enjoyed it, I liked it, I think it's definitely worth the watch, and if you compare it to all the other woke, mass hypnosis, mind control trash out there, it was actually a lot better. Now that's not saying much, but I think it's fair to say that we're seeing somewhat of a shift in our society, since, maybe because of the financial reckoning happening all over the world, we don't have time to concentrate, rather than focus all of our energy on the latest trash provided by Vice News, which is an absolute distraction for the calamities happening all around us that have been created and pushed through by all this nonsense. And again, the financial cost, which we have been warning you about, which we have been telling you about, which we have been telling people to prepare for, is here. It's only beginning. It's only going to get a lot worse. Hope you guys are prepared. Hope you guys have your bootstraps tied, because it's going to be one hell of a bumpy ride. And even though this marker is very hard to kind of calculate or assess, I do believe personally that there is some kind of larger cultural transition that we are currently going through that I think is worth noting, even though it is officially difficult to ascertain. What do you think is happening out there culturally? Let me know down in the comment section below, but I do think there's a shift, there's a rift. It could be CERN, it could be the Hadron Collider, it could be something that's happening, and I think it's worth talking about. If you agree with that, share this video with your friends and family members and get into the discussion down below. These were my perspectives, my opinions, my point of views. If you disagreed with them, let me know why. I always appreciate constructive criticism. I got one more video coming your way on LukeUncensored.com, and if it wasn't for you becoming members, getting t-shirts, and of course being here all the way up until the end of the video, high five frick yeah. I appreciate you more than ever. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.